the most popular activity of the lecture series is the short play that's being performed by the senior students. That happens at the end of the lecture series, and this play has been continuing since term 1. It's an ongoing saga involving two main characters. One is a UNSW student, the other is a student from a Japanese university. And of course there will be love interest, etc. And this is performed by the senior students, and students love it, and they emotionally get involved, and they want to follow the plot, so they have to get all the resources they can use to understand the play, and I can see they're engaged because they come to lean forward to listen to it. And after that, I usually have a comprehension questions, true or false questions, to check their comprehension level, and that's the most popular activity of the lecture.
The last activity we had was something I call impromptu role play. Impromptu means there's no script, no preparation at all. So what we did was, because the lesson that week was on dating, and students, they were divided into different groups, and each group had around 6 to 7 students. What they needed to do was to read the task that I gave them. I put all the tasks and tools in a big envelope. They read the task on the spot, and I also gave them a scaffolded framework, so that helped them to understand the task. So students play the role of parent. And then for me, I was also a parent and a volunteer student who wanted to be my daughter. So all the classroom was transformed into a marriage matchmaking corner in People's Park in Shanghai. Yeah, so as they were all the overall class, they were parent, they needed to create personal profiles of their children. For example, like their marital status, their age, their hobbies and interests, their spousal preferences, etc. They were able to write that in Chinese. If they couldn't write any key vocabularies, they could simply write them in Pinyin or in English. So their job was to stick the notes of the personal profiles they created onto the wall, and me and my daughter, we were talking about the weather first, which was the topic we learned in the earlier weeks, and then we started walking into the park. We look at the profiles created by those parents, and what we did later was we look at the profiles. Whichever profiles interest me or my daughter, on the spot we'll have a chat with the parent sitting there. So we gain a lot of conversations throughout this process, and the students really positioned themselves as parents. They forgot that was the classroom that they are in.
On that particular day of the filming for this class, I tried an experiment, and it was inspired by a Canadian colleague who has used Playdough as a means of being able to illustrate the relations between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie under conditions of capitalism. And this technique is to use Playdough and to offer it to students, have them simulate working in a factory, and then use that example in order to introduce basic Marxist concepts such as a mode of production, relations of production, means of production, and so forth. And it required being able to simulate certain positions in relation to the mode of production, like the bourgeoisie who owns the capital, that is the Playdough, and those students who were merely working at the behest of the bourgeoisie and who took the form of the proletariat. So it was an experiment. It was the first time I ran it, and I thought it was an interesting experience in the sense that I enjoyed and loved seeing how students actually, it disrupted the energy in the room, and it created a condition for students actually to feel and live a certain experience, albeit under artificial circumstances, but it then created the conditions for students to remember and to think about, how do I know what a mode of production is? Oh yeah, it's that experience of participating in the Playdough simulation of Playdough capitalism in this Playdough factory, creating this, that, and the other thing.